Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer quick match gameplay. This time around I'm playing as Brettonia against the Warriors of Chaos, led by Taco Flavored Kisses on the map Excavation Site. So with the new patch hitting, Brettonia has had some pretty significant changes. Gonna throw things into slow-mo real quick. Obviously, the Fan Enchantress has been nerfed a lot. She went up in price, and now Mist of the Lady only applies when she's in close quarters, which is incredibly risky for her. And the Grail Relic lost 4 points of morale boost, so now it only boosts leadership by 12 rather than 16. So I decided that before, the Fan Enchantress had been a bit of a staple in my comps and for Brettonia, and I decided to switch things up, replace her with King Louen, and see how that would work, and just bring a normal Damsel of Life to compensate. So obviously, going into this comp, I'm also trying to make use of the new regiments of renown for Brettonia. And so I've got King Louen coming in with all of his abilities, as well as the Sword of Corone, alongside a Damsel of Life coming in with Earthblood, Life Bloom, of course, and Regrowth. And then a Grail Relic just to help stiffen up my front line. The fact that it lost 4 leadership isn't enough really to compensate for the fact that it's still to undo the fact that it still provides a massive boost to leadership and makes units immune to psychology, and that is, I think, really the key issue here, is that it makes units immune to psychology. This early game's a little slow, so I'm just going to go ahead and keep things going. My front line is composed of 3 men-at-arms with pole arms, as well as the Beast Slayers of Bastogne, who I think are very strong in scouts because they deliver high defense, high armor piercing, or decent armor piercing, and solid armor for an infantry unit, which makes them resilient against stuff like Chaos Warriors and like non-armor and Forsaken. Then 4 units of Foot Squires, no levels on them, but they're just there to deal with enemy infantry. Obviously, they have anti-infantry and armor piercing, both of which are very good against Chaos. And then for my cavalry contingent, split up across the 2 flanks. On one flank, I have the Companions of Quentinless, who are the new Regiment of Renown Questing Knights, and they obviously have built-in physical resistance and immunity to psychology, as well as the Blessing of the Lady, or sorry, that is their physical resistance. Yeah, so that's it. And then the regular unit of Questing Knights, which is a very strong counter unit against Chaos because obviously they dish out armor piercing. They do have some amount of armor. They're a bit hard to pin down. They can just really dish out a lot of hurt to most Chaos units, with the exception of halberds, of course, and some monsters. So my opponent's army is a bit monster heavy, definitely a bit scary. Coming in, of course, with Prince Sigval with Auric Armor and Stand Your Ground. They're not bringing a Foe Seeker or Furious Onslaught by the look of it. So picking up the center there. Alongside him on foot is a Chaos Sorcerer of Shadows with the Withering, Enfeebling Foe, and Pit of Shades. Then 2 monsters. There's definitely quite a bit of money invested in these. A Dragon Ogre Shaggoth and a Chaos Giant. And they're backed up by the Swords of Chaos, which is the new regiment of renowned Chaos Knights, and they're basically something like Super Questing Knights or Super Grail Guardians. They're there to beef up your line. They provide a passive charge and speed bonus to all your units as long as they're within a certain distance of the enemy. They have very high HP. They have small model counts, and they have armor piercing and anti-infantry bonus. So they're just a very, very potent unit, and they do fire damage, which actually will make them a little worse against the Companions of Quentinless. And sorry about that, guys. So definitely a very high-end unit heavy comp here. Now for my opponent's front line, he does have the Chaos Warriors over here, 3 units of Chaos Warriors, and then of course the Mirror Guard coming in to back up Sigvald. Basically just very quick Chaos Warriors with a immunity psychology, and of course 9 veterancy, so they're very sturdy. And then 2 units of Chaos Marauders just to tear through my armor. So we're going to see how things break down. I am pushing my front line up. I don't have any shooting, so my opponent's monsters could potentially be a lot of trouble for me, especially the Shaggoth and the Giant. And as you can see, I'm already seeing that the Shaggoth is coming to this flank. I'm trying to shuffle around my Companions of Quentinless because I really don't want them engaging on the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. It does have anti-large, armor piercing, and it will absolutely destroy them in short order. So if possible, I want it to be fighting my infantry, ideally the pole arms, such as the Beast Slayers, and yeah, I really just don't want it engaging. And for now, there's a bit of a lull as we kind of drop our battle lines. I'm still shuffling over the Companions of Quentinless. And we're kind of just sizing each other up, deciding what to do. I push forward a little bit, and my opponent pushes forward at practically the exact same time. And he starts pushing into me. I'm kind of poking forward with Louen. But I don't want to quite dive just yet. Just here, you can see I'm peeling my flank back because I want to keep my units closer to my Grail Relic if at all possible. Here I dive Louen onto the Mirror Guard. Now he can't terror out them because they do have immunity to psychology, but he can dish out quite a bit of hurt before they hit the front line. And now they're into the foot squires. King Louen is there, and he will make them take a lot of pain here between the foot squires and King Louen. These guys are getting absolutely torn apart. So I'm trying to shut that unit down as quickly as I can. Now my opponent does simply plow straight into my squires here. So I'm doing is, unfortunately, I don't micro the Beast Slayers here, so I push them straight into the fight. But I do get these squires around the flank, trying to get on my opponent's side. Over here you can see this kind of mosh pit degenerating here between the Mirror Guard, the Men-at-Arms, and the Polearms. I pull Louen through because I don't want him fighting, and I do drop an Earthblood over here, an Overcast Earthblood on this center fight. Obviously, the Giant's Terror and the Shaggoths there is not going to break the foot squires as long as this Rail Relic is there. Over here, Louen dive on this flank, and unfortunately, I'm still on top of these Men-at-Arms and Polearms. The Pit of Shade does go down over here, but I drop the Regrowth at the last second on the foot squires, and that should counteract at least some of the damage that they're taking, and help them stay in the fight just a little bit longer as my other unit foot squires, and now the Companions, Quentinless, and finally this last two Questing Knights are going to push into this flank over here. In the meantime, Louen here is absolutely demolishing these Chaos Warriors. Without the really much backing from Sigvald to boost their morale, these guys will fall apart very quickly. I do pop Sword of Corone here, just to debuff everything, and finally get on top of these Men-at-Arms and Polearms and push them into the fray. I'm trying to shut down these Chaos Warriors for good. Over here, the Mirror Guard is actually struggling quite a bit against the Men-at-Arms and Polearms because the Men-at-Arms and Polearms have very high melee defense. I'm trying to move my Rail Relic over here, and I have dropped an Earthblood on the on my blob of units here. Obviously, my opponent has pushed his Swords of Chaos and his Chaos Giant into my Companions of Quentinless and Questing Knights, but they are holding their ground very well, and as you can see, they're actually trading pretty efficiently with the Swords of Chaos over there, despite it being a bit of a mosh pit. Obviously, these guys do have that built-in fire resistance and physical resist, so they'll be very, very sturdy. Unfortunately, Sigvald does bust through at this point and run down my Damsel of Life, which means I'm not going to be getting any more healing from her. I do believe she shatters, either that or she just dies. I'm not entirely sure which of the two happens. Chaos Marauders with Weight Weapons though have busted through, which is a bit of a problem. I'm trying to pull my Grail really closer to my army just to keep it alive. My opponent really should have gone after it here with Sigvald, but he chose not to. In the meantime, my foot squires are tearing through these Mirror Guard, and now there's these Men-at-Arms and Polearms collapsing on them from the flank. And over here, you can see the Men-at-Arms and Polearms and the foot squires just kind of rolling this flank up now that they busted to the left. In the meantime, Louen has done a bit of a circuit, and he's going to be able to dive in and provide some support over here. As you can see, the Cavalry contingent is still holding reasonably strong. I actually decided to bypass with Louen. I'm trying to simply wrap up my opponent's army from one flank all the way down to the right, and eventually just crush him between all of my forces. And Louen is very useful for this because he can obviously terror out units that don't have immunity to psychology. He dishes out immense amounts of damage. He's mobile. He can escape enemy pursuit like his Dragon or Shaggoth who's trying to chase him, but really doesn't stand much of a chance at that. Over here, you can see more debuffs going down. I do believe this is the Withering. And there's a bit of a brawl here. I do dive, but as you can see, I dive Louen into these Chaos Marauders, make sure that they get terrified away from the Foot Squires, which will allow the Foot Squires to very handily take that fight and just massacre him. And I immediately bail Louen out. I don't let him stick around. I don't want him dying for nothing. The Sigvald can dish out a lot of hurt if this guy stays still for long. So what I'm going to do now is I'm trying to chase these Swords of Chaos off the field so they don't come back. In the meantime, Questing Knights, the Companions Quentinless, as you can see, they hold very well, especially now with the backing of the Grail Relic, but even without the backing of the Grail Relic, these guys are holding immensely well. The Beast Slayer's Bastion dishing out crazy amounts of hurt. Foot Squires still doing a lot of damage. And they're slowly tearing through this Giant. He is dishing out a lot of hurt in return, but not quite as much as he'd really need to. And the Chaos Sorcerer of Death is slowly also taking a bit of hurt. He's slowly falling apart. Over here, Louen does charge the back of these Swords of Chaos, but I'm forced to pull. Well, I'm not forced to, but I decided to pull Louen back because I'm realizing these guys are so far away. I was hoping they'd simply run off the board at this point, but I really don't want to be spending time chasing him all the way out and then having to bring Louen back. Over here, these Men-at-Arms with Polearms chased off one of my opponent's units, and now they're coming back into the fray. And here I'm just pushing Louen into the fight, waiting until the last second. My Grail Relic is almost dead, which is definitely a bit of a problem. I charge in and wait till the last second to pop Stand Your Ground, to simply boost as many units as I possibly can with that buff. Now the Chaos Giant is getting shredded incredibly quickly. He's absolutely falling apart. Sword of Corone went down, so he's not going to be able to dish out much of any damage, and he's going to fall down extremely quickly. Same with the Chaos Sorcerer of Shadows, and over here the Giant is just getting destroyed. Unfortunately, my Questing Knights aren't really capable of tearing through him. And my infantry are still tying down Sigvald, still tying down the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. Over time, they will poke him down. It will take him a while. As you might know, the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth got a buff this last patch, up to 70 armor now. And Kolek also got a buff to armor. So that's definitely something to watch out for if you're used to destroying Chaos Dragon Ogre Shaggoths with cheap low-end archers. Definitely watch out. They do have a lot more armor. Obviously, they can still be dealt with through the use of archers and even low-end archers, but it's much harder now than it was before. Using something like simply Gobbo archers will not do as well as it would before. Now here you can see, and that was part of the reason why I decided against bringing peasant bows this time around as well. King Louen over here coming back, just trying to wipe out this Shaggoth. This is really the last pocket of enemy resistance. My knights are trying to run this giant down. It's really not working. It actually still hasn't shattered though, and its leadership is kind of wavering and sometimes recovering. So I'm trying to encircle this Shaggoth, encircle Sigvald. If I can blob in on him with my infantry, I should be capable of dispatching him pretty effectively. Sigvald is not the greatest at dealing with infantry. Over here, though, the Shaggoth is getting torn apart. King Louen still hasn't hit his healing cap. Neither has Sigvald, so the two can still keep healing for a while. These Swords of Chaos are coming back. As you can see, they recovered pretty efficiently. And here, I do believe my opponent actually decided to concede because he hadn't quite been shattered yet. So definitely a bit of a intense game there with Brettonia against Chaos. And definitely, I think, got the showcase on the strengths of the new regiments of renown. As you can see, none of them really run off. The companions of Quenolus, the Beast Slayers, and the Swords of Chaos, all, and even the Mirror Guard actually, all hold like incredibly efficiently against for a very extended period of time. Obviously, they are regiment of renown, so level 9 or veterancy 9 units, but it's a very solid leadership. They really don't break. A lot of them have immunity to psychology and various such resistances, and that makes them really good. So I think that with these improvements, all of the new regiments of renown are relatively cheap for what, or most of them are for what they deliver out of the new ones that we got, and I think it's gonna make them almost a must-have for it to bring to the field. Beast Slayers of Bastogne only cost 800, and they definitely held their ground incredibly well there. They just tied down that Shaggoth, tied down the Ogre, or the Giant, sorry. We're tying down enemy Chaos Warriors, just stopping them from doing much. They're basically Chaos Halberdiers in a lot of ways. They obviously don't dish out as much hurt in a straight up fight, but they are in many ways comparable to Chaos Halberdiers, and that is not a bad thing to have for Brettonia. And I think these guys are going to be basically a must-have for any infantry composition with Brettonia, or almost any infantry composition. The Companions of Quenolus to shed a lot of hurt, and they held their ground really effectively against the Swords of Chaos, because obviously they do have that built-in fire resistance, they have some physical resistance, so they can really hold up very well. They're just a very potent unit. They're only 1400, and can dish out immense amounts of hurt, so they really, I think, shown there. Obviously, Foot Squire is still solid. Men-at-Arms is still solid. The Grail Relic is still a very good choice. My opponent didn't focus it out as hard as he probably should have that game, and that, I think, cost him in the long run. But the Grail Relic is still a very potent item, and it's still very much worth the cost. It's only 650, so to prevent your units from routing and fleeing out the field, very useful. Fan Enchantress, I think, is not that great anymore, but King Louen, of course, is still very solid for those terror bombs. And you can simply replace the Fan Enchantress with a cheap Damsel of Life. And for Chaos, yeah, you can see the Mirror Guard did very well for themselves. The Swords of Chaos struggled a lot against the Companions of Quenolus, and I think that's definitely something to watch out for. Units that have fire resistance. This patch gave us a whole bunch of units with fire resistance, so just the fact that these guys have armor piercing is not going to compensate for that. And these guys are really quite a bit of an expensive support unit. They actually can't go toe to toe even with demigryphs with halberds, so which are a significantly cheaper unit. So definitely can't rely on them to give you a good cost-efficient cavalry option. They're really not a cost-efficient cavalry option, but they are a very strong support unit, and they can obviously still dish out a lot of hurt to some types of units. But once again, not going against fire resistant. Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, of course, is still good, and to get those buffs, which made it much tankier, even against an almost entirely armor-piercing army like this one. I only had 2 non-armor-piercing units, which were both only support units. So, but even against those, it makes them much tankier. So yeah, that's basically it. Definitely watch out for Brettonia. They now have some nasty tricks up their sleeve for some of their cheaper units. Certain upgraded variants now. So definitely watch out for it. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. I do greatly appreciate that. If you have any comments, criticism, any ideas on how you'd like me to improve my videos, or what comps or units you'd like to see showcased next, be sure to post those down in the comments. I'll be sure to read through them and respond as soon as I can. Once again, I appreciate you all for watching, and Wyvern out.